Well, hello everyone. Congratulations, you made it to the second part of the video and you are continuing to do the 3D Project weekly project this week. Now, as you can tell, this video is going to be called Basic 3D Modeling. I will break this video up into two parts, so it may be long. The first part is going to be going over basic modeling. Then the second part is how to take that model and then input it into an actual drawing file that you will then print off and submit for me so that way I can see it. If you have any other questions, please make sure to come up and talk to me leading up to this. So watch the whole video, then come ask some questions. So as we just said, we're doing the basic 3D modeling within Inventor, and then we'll show you how to complete the model and then complete the drawing. This is going to be a two-part video, so it's going to be long. Let's minimize out and let's open up inside OneNote. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you download various files. So the first file that you probably have already downloaded is the master template, the Helena High School, and the HHS drafting. Remember, those go inside your drafting stuff, inside weekly progress, inside one, templates, and then they are. Now, back to this. Let's talk about what 3D modeling is. 3D modeling is a software where you take a 2D model and turn it into a three-dimensional object where you can do various things to it. Now, the link that we're looking for is the eye, and it has the eye on it, and it says Autodesk Inventor, and the screen will pop up like this. Give it a second. Now, you should be staring at a screen similar to this. Your guys' might have something a little bit more here, but just keep in mind that we are dealing with strictly a 2D part right now. So I told you earlier about the different file types. This is going to be called a part, which is an IPT file, the drawing, which would be an IDW file, the assembly, which is an IAM file, and the presentation, which is an IPN file. So what we're going to do is we're going to do basic parts, and we're going to do model 001. Now, when I open this up, as we kind of navigate ourselves through this curriculum, or I'm sorry, through this unit, you need to be very familiar with what's happening up here. Now, if you don't see what's happening and you don't see these icons here, if you can easily select this window here or this minimize to panel buttons, and the buttons and the icons change to be simplified, completely gone, and then right back to where we want them. This is where you should live. So, what are we drawing, Mr. Spearson? Well, let's go back to OneNote. And what we're looking to download is the WP1 drawings. So I've already downloaded them, so let's pull them up. Keep in mind, each drawing is worth 5 points, except for the very first one is going to be worth 15 because you're learning how to model. After this, you'll notice that we're going to blow through these like no one's business. Keep in mind, though, each drawing, I'm going to talk about the number of extrusions that I'm expecting to be done in. So each drawing, so drawing 002, is going to be done with only 2 extrusions. Now, the reason why I want to limit your number of extrusions is because I want you to understand how the software works and how they piggyback off each other and how it talks to itself. So back to Inventor. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go right up here to the 3D model. I'm going to click on a 2D sketch. I'm not going to drop it down. I'm just going to go right into a 2D sketch. Now, what you're staring at here is 3 different planes of access. Now, when I first looked at this drawing, we're looking at an isometric drawing, which means this is the front, this is the right, this is the top. Those are the views that we look at them. Now, depending on what fundamentals or what version of curriculum you are in, you will understand what I'm talking about, or this may be completely brand new to you. But I always like to start out in the X and Y plane, which is my front view. So remember, we are drawing this model. So I'm going to zoom in just so we can kind of see what's happening. And that's the model we're going to draw. So the cool thing is in Inventor, you draw what you see as a shape, and then you extrude that shape. So what we're going to simply do is we're going to draw 3.5 long, 7/8 up. Then we're going to come up 1 3/4, back 1 3/4, and then we're going to connect the dots going 90 degrees because that is a 90-degree shape. So now that I'm in here and I'm into a plane, which is my X and Y plane, I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to come from this point. Now notice where my green dot links up, that's essentially letting me know that is my origin. Now remember, we are 3.5, so you get to type stuff, which is really cool. And if you don't want it in decimals, you can say 3 space 1.5 inch. And it's intuitive enough that it understands all of that stuff. Now, I told you we needed to come up 3/4. Remember, if I didn't want to type in a fraction, I can simply type in the decimal. Now, I'm going to type in 1.75. I'm going to hit enter. Now, if I hit enter a second time, I will end a command that I'm already in. And if I hit enter again, I pick up my command that I was just in. Now, I want to come back 1 3/4, and then I want to come down 3/4. Now, I don't know if you guys are noticing this or not, but as I move my cursor, this thing will snap in origins, and it'll give me lengths and degrees. So as you can tell, it's 0.664 inches. Do not waste your time trying to drag this thing, because I will catch kids doing this every once in a while. You're wasting your time. Type in the dimension. So 0.75. Now, if I wanted a various angles and I didn't want 90, and instead of clicking and dragging and trying to change it, I can click tab and I can change it to being an angle that I want. Now, we know that angle is not correct, right? So what we can do is I can hit escape to exit out, or enter to end a command. I can hit escape because right now I'm in line. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to double click this dimension. This gives me the ability to change it. Oh, I was supposed to be 105. No, I wasn't. What was I supposed to be? 90 degrees. So this is the really cool thing about Inventor. And if you're in fundamentals, your mind is probably being blown, because when you draw a line, you have to erase a line. And in AutoCAD, you have to draw a line, then trim a line, or delete the line, and then redimension the line. In Inventor, draw the line, change the dimension. It's that simple. So let's go back to our model. We know we're supposed to be 1.5 inches up. We're supposed to be 1.5 inches back. I said 3/4, but it's supposed to be 7/8. So I'm going to come back. What do? Double click on the dimension. Now, I know the decimal. I can type it in. Or if I don't want to, I can double click it and just type in the fraction. It's the same thing. Now, I know that I'm supposed to come forward, right? Now, remember, I'm going to run it long. Purposely, I'm running it long. Now, I know this is supposed to stop there. But I know that, did I have a dimension for this? Or was I supposed to just take this minus that, should have given me this? Well, let's look at the dimensions. Let's find out. Look at that. I was supposed to take the overall, subtract the first step, and then just let the second step be what it is. Well, I want to extend that down there. So the cool thing about Inventor is I got all these icons up top. And what I want to do is I want to extend a line. Now, you're going to notice when I extend this line, I'm going to extend a line that wants to come down to there. But you're going to notice it's not going to like that. The reason why is because we do something in here we call constraints. Now, a constraint is a limit that we've made. And our limits for this line are, it must stay at 90 degrees, and it must be 0.75, 3/4 of an inch. If I get rid of a constraint that allows it to work outside of that element by deleting it, by selecting it and hitting delete, not backspace, delete. Then I go back to extend. Now my constraint has disappeared, and now I can draw my line. Now the cool thing is notice we have various other shapes here that we can work with. So we can move an object, we can trim an object, we can scale an object, we can stretch an object, offset stuff, split things, rotate, and so on and so on. I need to get rid of that line. What am I going to do? I am going to trim it. So I've clicked on the trim icon. I'm going to come over and I'm going to simply touch it. Now we have done our basic shape of what it's supposed to look like. That's my outline. Now Inventor allows us to then extrude an object to a depth. We're not going to draw this as a 2D object that we're going to turn into a 3D object by adding multiple 2D sketches. Because right now we're on one single plane, which is an X and Y plane, which is on this surface. So you're going to notice when I finish, you're going to watch it go back into the X and Y plane. Now, I'm just going to visualize this with you so you can see what I'm talking about. We said X and Y. That is my X and Y plane. If I chose a different plane, it would be at these different angles. But I want to stay at this X and Y plane. And what I want to do now is I want to give it a depth to what it's supposed to be. So if we go back to our drawing, you're going to notice it needs to be 3/4 of an inch deep. So come back to Inventor. I'm going to then extrude my object. I'm going to select it, and you're going to see a box like this pop up. Now this box is really fairly simple. Essentially, you select the shape, okay, and then that sketch / shape must be a completed shape, so it can't have unbroken lines that need to be connecting. So now that it's completed and it outlines and shows me how deep it's going to go, I know it's not supposed to go an inch. I know it's only supposed to go 3/4. And I also know that I don't want the shape coming forward. I want it going back. So I'll flip the direction. Well, Mr. Spearson, I don't know if I like that either. Well, what if I wanted to split it? Well, you can split it too. What if I wanted to split it one distance coming certain length and the other distance going the other one? So like I said, distance 1, distance 2. So it's really cool and pretty intuitive. It's really nice, which you're going to come to find out. And congratulations, I am done with that shape. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you various ways to kind of go about doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, completely delete it. I'm going to delete even the sketches and features that go with it. I'm going to say, okay, now remember, there's nothing there. And if you're watching this video, I need you to pay attention, because what I'm about to do next is I'm going to show you another way to draw this shape, but with different number of extrusions. Because back to our instruction sheet, we talked about the number of extrusions we wanted to do. This model, I don't have a limit because you're just watching my video and you're understanding it. But if we go back to the shape, what if, Mr. Spearson, I drew this shape in the right view, which means it had this view and it had that box, this box and that box in a singular plane in the right view. Well, that's fairly simple. The shape stays the same, like as in the size, 1 3/4 by 3/4 and 7/8 by 7/8. So let's go back to it. What do I need to first do? Start a sketch. Remember, we don't go into a 3D sketch, we go to a 2D sketch. What plane am I choosing? Well, what plane are we drawing in? Are we drawing in the front? Are we drawing in the right? Are we drawing in the top? Going back to here, we are drawing in the right. So that's this plane. Now, the cool thing is about this is we can do various shapes. I could draw lines if I really wanted to, or I could draw a shape. Now, if I drop this down, I have various ways to draw this shape. I just want to simply just do a shape. Now, notice I did not type in dimensions. But what if I want to type in dimensions now, Mr. Spearson? Very simple. Now that you're in a rectangle and you've drawn your shape, escape to get out of that command, and now enter in by doing a dimension to give it a length. Now, this is crucial with Inventor. Please understand, when you are dimensioning something, you need to understand whether you're dimensioning something in an aligned dimension, meaning it's parallel, or aligned is it doesn't have to be parallel. But a linear must be parallel and it must stay 90 degrees on what you're dimensioning to. Now, how you decipher the difference between the two is if you touch a line and not a point, if you touch a line, you are dimensioning in a linear fashion. Now, how big was I need to be? 3/4 of an inch. Enter. Now, how I'm zooming out is I can zoom in and zoom out with my scroll mouse, but if I double click my center scroll button, I zoom out and it extends out to whatever I'm actually modeling with. So now that I'm 3/4, I remember I'm supposed to be 1.5 inches. Now remember this, do not click the dots, because even though it's doing the same thing for you currently, when we get into more complex modeling, it really screws things up. Because complex modeling has different various shapes and surfaces, and when you don't dimension them correctly, which remember, dimensions are constraints. If you don't dimension them correctly, whether a linear or aligned, it will jack up your model when you're trying to change one dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to make it again by just touching the line. And I know that needs to be 1.5 inches or 1.75 inches. Boom. Okay, now the next thing we need to understand. Notice I just put this shape out in the middle of nowhere. That's perfectly fine. But a common thing that I want everyone to understand is that these models should always be on the origin, or if it's a complex model, understand where you want your origin to be. Because origins can be easily dropped down in this box here by being able to view it. And if you have a, what's the word I'm looking for? If you have a, not standard, but if you have your template model, your basic IPT file set up correctly and you understand how complex your model is, sometimes it's important to have your model centered on the X and Y. For our case, we want this bottom left-hand corner there. So there's various ways I can do that by selecting everything, and I can simply move it and grab a base point and grab that corner and move it and let it snap. Or I can simply say, hey, check it out. This shape right here must have a constraint that is vertical off this point and that point. See how it moved? And then it must also stay horizontally constrained with this plane and that plane. So as we venture our way through Inventor, you're going to come to find out there's so many tricks of the trade. And I, in my sense, I think I know a lot until I sit down with someone who is phenomenally good at Inventor, and they just blow me out of the water. So we also know that there needs to be a line here. So my next step is to draw a simple line here. Remember, this line is that line because this is a flat surface, and in the right view, you can see that one surface becoming a line. So I'm just going to simply draw a line. Do I really care where it's at? No. Why? Because I can dimension it. Now that I've dimensioned it, I will then click it and make it 7/8. Now, this is where I wanted to model this shape a different way because we're talking about the number of extrusions, right? When we first started this shape, we understood that we only needed, like, we could do it in one extrusion. But I'm showing you how to do it in 2 extrusions, meaning 2 different shapes being projected out to it. So I'm going to hit extrude. I'm going to select this lower one. And I know that I need to come forward an inch or 3.5 inches. So I'm going to type in 3.5, enter. Now, holy crap, Mr. Spearson, first let's fix this plane on what we're drawing. So right now we got a cube here. I can click and drag this cube like this. Or if you hold your shift and you hold your center mouse button, you can rotate this object also. So if I go back over to my, I think they call this a project browser. I think, let me see here. Let's see if I can find it here. Honestly, I don't know what they call this thing. I thought it's called the project browser, but I could be wrong. Either way, you're going to see all the number of extrusions that I have as I project through this object. But underneath each extrusion, you're going to find out that if I click the arrow, I'll see the original sketch that it came from. So there is a sketch there, and I don't want to draw this shape again because I'm working off the same sketch going 2 different extrusions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click that and I'm going to bring the visibility back, and then I'm going to click extrude, and now I'm going to bring that one forward. Now that one's only supposed to come forward 1.75 inches. Boom. Now I have my shape, but I've just drawn it a different way. I've drawn it in the right view versus the front view. Now, I don't want to waste your time and draw it again on the top view, but you're starting to understand how I work this through. So what we're going to end up doing is you're going to see these 2 extrusions. You can also see the sketch. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see that there's a sketch number 2. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to get rid of the visibility. Now, we need to fix one thing. This cube is not orientated the right view. Because remember, we want to be in the front view right here in that orientation. So I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to select the bottom. Notice that's the view I want. Now I'm going to right-click the bottom, and I'm going to set my current view as the front. Now, we know that an isometric drawing has the front, the right, and the top. But the one thing that we are forgetting is that we need to set our fixed isometric view. Front, right, top. Front, meaning this surface. right meaning that surface and this surface, and the top meaning this surface and that surface. So I want to right click this and I want to set current view as home to a fixed view, not distance. That's my fixed view. So I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to click on the center mouse and I'm just going to drag it wild. Now that's all jacked up, right? But if I come over here and click on the home button, it'll bring me right back to my isometric view. So this is part one. Stay tuned. We're going to do part two. Okay, so before we get into how to develop an IDW, which is a drawing file of your part of 007, I want to save this part. Now, when I save this part, I want to just go File, Save As. And where we save this is within our OneDrive, inside drafting. Now, you should all have your own OneDrive. We've gone over this in the importance of file location. Into drafting, or I'm sorry, 3D printing, then weekly projects, then this folder. Now we're into drawings. Inside 001 should be that drawing. Now, I've already saved it. I don't need to save it again, so we're good to go. What I want to do now is I want to break this up into essentially what Inventor can do, and then go into exactly the IDW files, which is the drawing files. So I should have done this at the beginning, but I didn't. That's okay. This here is an assembly, which is an IAM file of your first project that you're going to be doing in drafting. So this is going to be a combination lock, which is going to be kind of set up to where you can kind of make your own combination to it. And if you're looking on the bottom right-hand screen, you can kind of see what I'm looking at. Now, this is a final version of what it looks like on the screen, ignoring the fact that you don't have all the combinations. So I've made this to being a 5-digit combination lock. And if I rotate the screen, you'll notice like the arrows, I mean, they match the arrows up here and there. And then, of course, my code on this is just sevens, because 7 is my favorite number, and we like to have fun, and everything is fine in the world. And yeah, so let me just show you. Bink, and it opens up. So it's kind of cool. I'm excited. You probably have seen this in class, and then lock it up, of course, so that way it stays locked in. Now, what's cool about Inventor is you're able to add all these files together and make it an assembly to where you can see if it's compatible, and then view other things to actually check to see if your tolerances are going to be correct. And you can get rid of views so you can see if it's going to line up correctly. So it's pretty neat. It's really nice. You got to remember that each part needs to be made first. So this part is of this. So what you're staring at here is the inside holder, and the inside holder is that. And notice it matches this. So I can bring this one back. This is the outside holder. Here's the ring. So it's pretty intuitive and pretty cool. Now, if I was to go ahead and change one thing on this, like if I change that to an 8, you'll see that it'll kick over here and change that to an 8, or whatever I change it to on the ring itself. But this here would have its own drawings, and this would have an A series and B series. Both A series of like the overall project together, or like what it costs, the overall view, the exploded view. That way you know what each part is, and then the cover, which shows you what the project is. The B series are the individual parts. So for the B series of this project, there would be the outside holder, an inside holder, and then multiple rings, which would be 5 rings. So ring 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 plus the 2 is 7. So you would have 7 B files, and we can get into that later on. But back to this. We are now going to save this, and we'll just save right over the top of the old one. So we're going to go back, OneDrive, drafting, 3D printing, weekly progress, 1, draftings, 1. There it is. I'm going to replace it. Now I'm set. What I want you to do now is I want you to open up your OneNote. You're staring at this screen again, and there's a file we downloaded called the master template in the previous video. I'm going to open that up by going back to OneDrive, drafting, 3D printing, weekly progress, here, templates, boom. I'm going to open that up right there. Now, this file I'm already done for you. Now, a lot of you when you get into doing mechanical, or if you are watching this and this is your fourth quarter project, you're required to do the basic title block setup, which I'm not requiring you of now because there's going to be some changes here. But remember, we want you to change the logo because this is my personal logo, but I want you to do your own. So what I want you to do is on the left-hand side, I want you to see where it says engineering drafting. We're going to change the name of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go under the drawing resources. We're going to go to the border. We're going to right click engineering drafting. We're going to go edit. And then I'm going to right click it. And I'm going to say, or I'm sorry, I'm not going to right click. I'm just going to click it twice, but very slowly. And I'm going to change this to HHS drafting. Now I'm going to do that exact same thing, but now this time for the actual title block. And that's going to say HHS drafting. Now, I'm going to finish it. We're going to say OK. What you're going to understand about an IDW, which is a drawing file, is the fact that we have drafting resources or drawing resources of borders that we put in, which I already made with you, or I made for you. But when you get in mechanical or into fourth core projects, you'll be making your own. But that'll go in the title blocks too. What I want you to focus on is this here. Let's rename this also to say just HHS. There it is. And now I'm staring at my screen. I want to change my logo here. So I'm going to go right to here, to the bottom right where it says this here. And we might actually even just go like this. We're going to call this a border. Or actually, this one's going to be called a title block. Boom. And then this one's going to be called a border. Boom. Now, if I come back here, let's see if they changed here, which I doubt they did. So, of course, they didn't. So we'll have to change them here again. Let's call this one a title block. Yes, that's fine. We're going to rename it. Go back to here. Change this to border. Boom. Say yes. Overchange it. Good to go. So I don't really care about the border. I care about the title block, which is going to be all of this stuff here. I want to put my own logo in. So we're going to go right click, edit definition. And now I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to zoom in. And my plan is I'm going to click image just once. Now, this is important. You need to click and drag. Do not just click. Click and drag the window for the border of your logo. And then, of course, then go find where you put your logo, whether you made it or you just put an A. I don't really care. But if you don't have your own personal logo, you can put, a text in here for crying out loud. And you can say initials, Spearson, SP, right? And then that would be your logo. And of course, you can always blow up the size to being like a 1/2 inch in size so it pops. And then, of course, just kind of level it out. After you're done with that, you can finish it. Now, keep in mind, I already have my logo, so I'm just going to Control Z all this so I can come back to what I have. But you need to have your own logo. Finish the sketch. Here we are. We are back to our template. What I want to do now is I want to bring in 007 or 001 into the master template. So first thing I want to do is I want to go over here to place view to click base. And now it's going to pop up automatically. But I want you to understand that you need to sometimes go find an existing file. So we're going to go back into OneDrive. We're going to then go down to drafting, 3D printing, weekly progress, blah, 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 like you already know. There's my part. I'm going to say open. Now, what I want to do is I want to click and drag this into the view that I'm looking for. This is the front view. Here's the right view. Now, notice I'm just dragging. Okay, I have not clicked again. Now I'm clicking. Notice if you see my screen, you can see almost a silhouette of a green dotted line, which is giving me an outline of the view, which is the top view. Now I need an isometric. Notice I'm going in the isometric area, and I'm going to click once. And then what I'm going to do is I can say OK. Now, before we get going, okay, you need to understand two things. First, being able to read WP1 drawings and not just looking at the samples is crucial. You need to be able to decipher and from an isometric drawing and how to turn it into a 2D, which then extrudes into a 3D. But when you turn in your drawing, okay, there are certain things that I'm expecting. And those certain things are being able to draw them the way that I want them drawn. So we're going to open up the samples, and here's exactly how I want it drawn. You'll have these dimensions here and here, 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 and then notice this is not shaded, okay? So back to here. Let's turn this off shaded. So I'm going to double click this, and I'm going to unclick the shade, and I'm going to say okay. Now notice this is a scale I've set to it. This is a 1-to-1 scale. If I wanted it to be a 1-to-2 scale, meaning the paper is the 1, after the colon it's the 2. That's the model size. And I would say, okay, now notice I'm changing just this one. But because this is the master, meaning this is the one that dictated all the others, when I say okay, it should change these two because they're projected from it. Now keep in mind, I want them a 1-to-1 scale. How do I know that? Because it says a 1-to-1 scale. So let's go back to here. Let's double click on it. Let's change it back to a 1:1. We're going to say okay. And now we're viewing kind of what we're already looking for. So what I want to try to do now is dimension it. So I'm going to go to annotate. My plan is to then dimension it. And I'm going to dimension it just like I saw it here. So I'm going to snap it there, go back to here, and my plan is I'm going to view it here. I got to have the 3.5 here, the 3/4 there. So we're going to come back, go back to dimension, and then my plan is to then turn around. Sorry, I got a student in here. We got to fix that one. Okay, let's do it on Monday. Sound good? That's fine. All right, have a good day. Okay, we're going to continue on with this. I'm going to do these last 3. I'm memorizing them. Boom, here we go. I'm still in dimensions. I'm going to select it. Notice when I dimension this, I'm not selecting point to point. I'm selecting the line. But you will notice that when I select this point, and notice when I scroll out, it snaps for it. I've already set up all of your templates on how they need to snap. So I could continue dragging this, and it'll keep snapping in the increments that I set it up for. Remember, I'm not having you do this for me, like setting up a template. This is just knowing how to draw. So I've set that one. Now, I don't want to set this and this because that doesn't really help me, right? Because I want this angle. So I'm going to escape. I'm going to go back to dimension, and I'm going to select a line with a line, and then I let it snap. I could also do a point to a point, but remember, that does the align fashion. That's why we don't dimension that way. So we're going to escape, and now we're set to rock and roll. I'm good. What I need to do now is do a file save as, and I'm going to save this in what folder? 001. And I'm going to name it 001. And I'm going to replace it. I've already made it, but we're going to fix it. So I'm almost done. My logo has been changed. My models have been brought in. My scale is correct compared to what it needs to look like. It's a 1-to-1. But now I need to change my eye properties here. So how I do that is I then go right click this, or I right click that, and I go right down to eye properties. And at that point, this screen pops up. Now we're going to set to custom, and we're going to go through here and just break this down. And my plan is the approved engineer is me as Mr. Spearson. The date is today. Today's date is 10/6/2023. I'm going to say, okay, my drawing is what? 001. My student name, I'm just going to put TA. I'm going to say, okay. The period, I'm in 0 period, right? My revision, I don't have any revisions, meaning I haven't altered this. I haven't changed it. Okay, my scale, what was it? It was a 1-to-1. It wasn't a 1-to-2, though. It was a 1-to-1. Now, the unit that I'm in, a WP1. Remember, weekly progress number 1. So this is good. I need to hit apply. Now notice when I select this, I've got to type in the value here. And if I don't hit enter or don't click modify, it will not change it down here. So I'm back to here. I'm good there. I'm going to hit apply. You're going to see it change all over here. Boom. TA, Mr. Spearson, scale, revision. Here's the unit, WP1. Here's the drawing. Here's the date. Here's the period. Now it is all fixed. One thing I also want you to change. No, I don't want to change anything else. You're good to go. Now all we need to do is print this drawing. So we're going to go to File, Print. We're going to drop this down, and you guys are looking for the drawing color 2. HH-drafting 306 color 2. You print that, you're good to go. Congratulations. You are now done with completing the model and completing the drawing, and now you have just received 15 points. Making sure you dimension them correctly by looking at my sample, and if you scroll through, you'll see them all here. That's exactly how I want them dimensioned. That's exactly how I want them labeled. Now, if we come back to here, here, you have now watched the video of files, the importance of file location. You have done the basic modeling of Inventor, and you have completed the model, and you've now done the drawing. Congratulations, come up, you get a stamp, you get 15 points. Come show me your importance or your file location by simply raising your hand and saying, Mr. Spearson, I filed my stuff all appropriately. You open up your folder, we go to your OneDrive, and you physically show me that you have made all of these folders that I am requiring of you, which is drafting, 3D printing, weekly progress, WP1, then these two, and then inside here. Remember, I'm only to 5. You need to go all the way to 8 and then add in the extra credit models. Remember, inside every drawing, there should be 2 files right now, just now. There should be an IDW file, which is a drawing, and it should have that logo. Then there should be an IPT file, which is the part itself. Now, if you do not have that icon, what you have done was you went File, Save As, and you did not change this to an IDW because it defaulted you as a DWG. So when I save, when I come over and I look at your screen and I see a, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Let's go back. There. When I see that icon, I know that is a DWG, which is an AutoCAD file. We don't deal with AutoCAD. We deal with an IDW Inventor files. So I need to see that icon. I need to see that icon. Those 2 files are the ones that are required to be in here, and you guys are good to go. I'm going to delete these. Oh, I can't because I'm inside it right now, so let's close out of it. Let's go back into here. Let's delete it. Now, if I look back at this instruction sheet, you have now completed 15 points. You have now shown me the file location. I stamped this. I've stamped that. You now have 20 points. You have the rest of the week to do all these other models. And if you get done with them, you can go into the extra credit. After you're done with that, stay tuned because week 2, we're going to do the combination log. Hope you liked my video. Hope it was easy to understand. I'm excited for you guys to be in this and trying on this challenge of 3D modeling. Let's go get them.